Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video we have another 308 test for you. This is the American Eagle 168 grain OTM projectile manufactured by Federal. So let's take a closer look at the ammunition we're testing today. I have about a year and a half of experience using this in my Remington 700 from distances from 100 to about 700 meters, and we found that it's incredibly accurate and it really packs a wallop on that steel target once it strikes at any distance. Now it features an OTM projectile, which stands for open tip match. Now this is actually target ammunition, not really designed for hunting or self-defense, and the reason why we're testing it is because we want a good benchmark. We've been getting into that 308 game of testing ammunition. We tested that Nosler 165 grain Partition Spitzer projectile a few weeks ago. It performed extremely well, but we had really nothing to compare it to. So in the long range shooting community, this is a decent option for a benchmark. It's relatively cheap, runs in semi-autos. It's actually designed for semi-autos, and it's fairly accurate. So we're going to be using this to compare both those 308 tests. So let's take a look at the results. Now we're going to be following this bottom path here. These top ones were caused by a 12 gauge load that we recently tested. Right here we have a center punch from the projectile, and at the 1 inch mark we start to see expansion. Now that expansion runs from that 1 inch mark all the way out here to 8 inches, where we have our maximum permanent diameter cavity of 2.75 inches. We can also see some blackened ballistics gel in this area, and that tells us that we had a huge energy transfer in this area. That is also confirmed by some external damage on the side of the ballistics gelatin block, which tells us that that energy moved all the way throughout the gel and had so much force that it was actually able to damage tissue that wasn't in contact with the bullet itself. After 8 inches, the permanent cavity and the projectile begin to break down. We can see that it goes from 2.75 inches down to about a half an inch here at the 10 inch mark. At the 12 inch mark, we're down to 0.3 inches, and we start to see the fragmentation of that lead core. After 12 inches, it drops down to 1/4 of an inch. We see large pieces of fragments and jackets left over at various distances inside the ballistics gelatin, and that's when that projectile actually reached into the second block. So I'm going to move the camera so you can get a good view on that permanent cavity. So here's that second block. We're looking at it from the bottom. As you can tell, it entered the ballistics gelatin, creating a 1/4 inch permanent cavity that reached out to the 21 inch mark, and that's our maximum penetration here. Let's recover the projectile and talk about our overall results. All right, so we've got our projectile on the scale there, and as you can tell, we lost a tremendous 22% of the overall mass. We're at 114 grains right now, down quite a bit. And if we take a look at the projectile up close, we can tell it's pretty mangled. It did not expand uniformly or reliably. And what that means for realistic use is if you were to choose this for hunting or self-defense use, you wouldn't have a reliable, repeatable performance. Although it did perform okay today by rifle standards, it wasn't anything to write home about. We saw a late expansion of the projectile. We saw an early transfer of kinetic energy, not in the vital zone, that 12 to 18 inches where the vitals are located. And we saw a very small permanent cavity reaching into that vital zone. Now, if we compare that to something like the Nosler that we tested, we can see that although we see a slight drop in ballistic coefficient and therefore accuracy, we see a large jump in terminal ballistic performance. So overall, this ammunition is a great benchmark to show us that even though you can have great accuracy, you might not have the best terminal performance. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing is free and it really helps us out. I'll see you guys next time.